you know, not so much for my next book, which is all about, my next book's actually about a band and set in the more or less the present day. And there's no research involved in that book at all. But I mean, I wanted to write about this particular moment in musical history in England, national music. That was when it needed to be set. I don't actually know an amazing amount about classical music, so I had to make sure that I spoke with the authority of a critic from the 1910s. Luckily, it was kind of slightly more of a gentleman's profession, if you know what I mean. Back then, you didn't have to be a music expert to be a musical critic, and so that worked in my favour. Might still be true. And I mean, misfortune, I did an immense amount of research for, because it's set in the 19th century, I didn't want any of the language to be wrong. But also you can make a kind of nasty fetish of getting your research all right and the words too perfect, and you basically want to forget all that, because I don't think the reader cares. I mean, the reader just wants to be fooled, and in a good way, you know, and to go along with you. The reader doesn't want the spell to be broken. But the reader also doesn't want to come across words that are impossible to understand on every sentence. So it's a fine line, but lots. Penny.
Have you found that you got
Is that one?
This
That's
one
the
now?
God voice one.
Right.
That one should be working.
Oh, I've never used so many microphones in one specific microphone.
Thank you.
Have you found that people that have bought your books and then no idea of your other career and then just music and vice versa?
I think way more people have found my music through my books than have found my books through my music. I try to be careful really about not implying to my musical audience that they should like my books. I don't think there's any, I mean, it's from the same head, but I also feel that, you know, people who like my music might not necessarily like reading the kinds of books that I want to read, that I want my books to be like. They might like a whole nother kind of book. And that's why, you know, years ago, if somebody had said to me in 24 years' time, you'll still be making music, do you want to be called John Wesley Harding? I would have probably said, no, I'll be called Wesley Stace. But I didn't realize that I would be making music 24 years later. I didn't think I'd be making music 24 hours later. So I took the name John Wesley Harding to avoid kind of people knowing it was me necessarily. But the one great thing about that is that it meant that I could put the books out under my real name. And I think having those two different things is very good, because apart from anything else, I think that books by novelists, books by musicians are patted on the back and put in a corner. Josh Ritter wrote an incredible novel this year. I mean, really fantastic novel. Steve Earle too. And I think that these books are just shuffled off, rather. And I think I was kind of lucky that I had another identity to do that under by mistake. That was just a stroke of good fortune for me. Yeah. Charles Dickens, Lawrence Stern, Henry Fielding, Jane Austen, and more modern, L.P. Hartley, Patrick Hamilton, and right now, Jonathan Coe, David Nichols,